Hey, yo, Chris, where you at? I'm in town.
So I talked to one of my creative friends today, and he hit me up. We was talking about music, and I hope he appreciates this episode as much as I intend for it to be enjoyed for artists like him. We was talking earlier about albums versus singles, and kind of like dealing with paralysis by analysis as an artist. Um, I know for me personally, I can speak to some moments and some periods of time where I feel like I don't know what to do, or there's no sense of direction, or I feel like I need to do something big or create a special moment, at least like on social media or musically or artistically, creatively, in whatever regard, right? Um, Today I want to talk about why releasing singles as a music artist can be. Damn, that was almost really good. Damn. I'm gonna keep that in there. I'm gonna keep that in there. That was almost really good. But that's what happens when I try to like follow a script. Not really a script, but I got some points that I want to touch on today, and it's pretty detailed, I'm not gonna lie. But I want to try to hit these different points. Today I want to talk about why releasing singles as a music artist can boost your career. Um and not just as a music artist. I feel like that approach also applies to like if you're a painter or whatever you do on social media. um I think the biggest thing is like do what you feel inspired by most, and then follow up with bodies of work to tell the story you want to tell. I don't think there's a particular order nowadays where the landscape is that you have to follow. I think there are people who have been in the game for a minute, regardless of whatever creative industry it is, that will tell you there's a certain way to do it, but that's the way they became successful. I think there are plenty of ways to, cut through to the audience that is for you. Um, for me as a music artist, a lot of times, I'll say even now, like I have several bodies of work that are kind of just in the backlog that a lot of people know about, whether they're, peers of mine or, fans or supporters or whatever you want to call it, right? And oftentimes I'll play pieces of different projects, and I'll hear people say, "Oh, you need to put this out," or "You need to," they have their own sense of urgency as far as like what you should be doing. But in reality, I just try to follow like whatever feels right, whatever feels ready to me at the time. That's what I'm putting out, and that leads me to my first point. Excuse me. Follow your inspiration. I want to emphasize the importance of creating music that genuinely inspires you. It's one thing to create a body of work. We all have a story to tell as artists, but I think the things that move the needle the most, at least for me personally, are the things that I feel like I desperately need to get them out right now. And sometimes that style of work changes drastically. Um, but I feel like that's okay. I feel like you can tell pieces of a story, or at least of the story that you're trying to tell as an artist, whether you start with the end, the beginning, the middle, kind of like the first quarter, third quarter, whatever you want to do. I think it's up to you. I think the playing field right now is so open, especially since everybody kind of like creates their own channel, whether it's through their Instagram or their TikTok. It's up to you. Like, it's always up to you. As long as you in it, and as long as you're like unsigned, I feel like it's always up to you. Um, Especially for my undiscovered artists. Like I consider myself an undiscovered artist in terms of not being known by a large group of people, a super large group of people. Let's say like over 10,000, genuinely like 10,000 solid listeners, supporters, right? I consider that to be kind of like, okay, you kind of getting some buzz, right? Um, if you're still working to be discovered as an artist, there are no rules. I think you need to just try everything. You need to do the stuff that definitely inspires you most, that moves you the most, that evokes the most emotion, especially for artists, like for rappers. And I'm gonna speak for rappers. Like, you need to put out the stuff that makes you feel something the most, not what you think is gonna go viral, not what you think is gonna be jumping at the clubs. You know what I'm saying? Like, you need to put out what you feel moves you the most. And if that is a club record, hey, do that. But don't put yourself in a box of feeling like you have to fit a specific timeline or rollout like these other major artists who already have these huge systems that are backing them, whether they are independent or not. They already have systems in place to kind of like deliver their story in such way. I feel like if you're an upcoming artist, you should kind of go a little easier on yourself and understand that, like, you can always make the story make sense regardless of what part you decide to tell first or second or third. So I don't know. I think that's the main thing I want to get out of this podcast today is, like, you know, you don't have to feel stagnant. You could just do stuff and like make sense of it later. That's like, for me, a lot of times, honestly, I make so much music on a daily basis, weekly basis. Sorry, I'm low key distracted. There's something weird in my sock, like something poking my sock. Anyway, I'm making so much music on a weekly, daily, sometimes weekly basis, right? That I don't even promote everything. Like, I don't tell y'all everything that I'm dropping. I don't even like announce it. I just mix and master it and upload it. But I know that at some point I'll get to it as far as like making the right type of content, putting it out, promoting it. It's your music, all your stuff that you create, they're all digital assets. So regardless, I had to move my camera. Regardless of what you decide to do, understand that when your work lives in a digital space as it is today, your work can always be rediscovered. It's always going to be new to somebody who hasn't seen it yet. So there's no need to put there's no need to put a sense of like pressure on yourself of feeling like, oh, I gotta do this, and then drop the album. You could do it that way, but you might do all that at this phase, especially. You might do all of that and it may not go anywhere. Like, it may not get the reaction or do the thing that you're expecting it to do. Versus actually doing what you really feel like, wow, this one is like, this is the one. This is what makes the most sense, feels the best. Do that. Like, follow your inspiration. I think it'll lead you to places that you never imagined you'd go. There's the conversation about like singles versus albums. I think you can always create albums. You can always create albums later. But you can't get to albums without singles. I'm gonna just say that. Take it one song at a time. You don't have to build the whole body of work or drop the whole body of work right away. Just focus on singles until it all makes sense. I feel like that's what I've been doing. There are tons of singles that I put out, tons of singles that I've made, and even down to like bodies of work that I've made where I like mix and match songs from old projects with newer concepts and newer ideas, and I tell the story in a different way with different fragments of the past or different fragments of what I've already done, and it still makes sense. And even if I still want to tell it in the old way, the old version, it'll still make sense. So I want artists to kind of like understand that, like, you're the artist, you're the author, you're telling the story. You can bring us back full circle or like put this Easter egg here and have us realize what it is later. Like, you have full control of that. Take advantage of that. There's also the point of, quality over quantity. Now, you want to give people a large body of work or your best work. I feel like giving your best work until you reach a level of, okay, now I have a body of my best work. That's kind of the route you should go. And the whole time you're building a narrative, that's what we're doing. We're writing a narrative, whether it's to reflect the times of the world or ourselves and the world that we experience. Yeah. That's I feel like the moment you stop trying to be so chronological about your art and your career and the way it plays out, you don't know when your next viral moment is. You don't know when you don't know. You just don't know. But you definitely won't know ever. You won't ever know until you put up enough shots, you post enough content, you upload enough songs. You won't ever really know what's going to go until you do that. So I say keep shooting your shots until it all makes sense. Eventually it will. Let's talk about audience expectations. Now, there definitely has to be a fine balance between meeting what you believe to be your audience's expectations versus your own, as far as like your own personal growth as an artist. Now, from what I've seen, most times your audience will grow and evolve with the artist. So if people are really down for you and they really support you and they really listen to you and you trust that they do, trust that they will evolve with you. And even if for the ones who don't evolve with you or stay with you, there are other people for that phase of you that you're going through or whatever. You may be doing a different style of music. There's a particular group of people for that. There's a particular group of people for, your older stuff, your previous works. And then there's the people who like the experimental stuff. Nonetheless, keep creating. Don't put yourself in a box feeling like you have to follow this model that you see just on Instagram or just, through other artists, what they put out, because you don't actually know how they put that story together. I hear a lot of albums get put together just after a bunch of songs have been made. They weren't made all in order, but whatever energy you're in, you're telling the same story. Like you're always, at least for me, I'm gonna speak for me, the stuff that I'm writing, it all contributes to the same world. Like eventually all the pieces kind of fit in the same puzzle. So don't feel like you have to start at the top of the puzzle and just work all the way down. You're going to be racking your brain forever. So that's my message to artists. I'm not going to lie. Full disclosure, it's 4:02 a.m. So I was tripping over my words a little bit, but I'm going to just let this be what it is. Because I'm not even tired, but I'm like, it's 4:02 a.m. And I got this bright ass light in front of my face. Crazy. But I had to do this in the name of all artists, for the artists. Hopefully this helps. Happy creating. Keep going. Peace. Blessings on to you.
Hey, yo, Chris, where you at? I'm in town.